Hey, I've got a great hour planned for you this morning. Good morning. It is Thursday, the 6th of November, and Bitcoin is holding above $100,000 per Bitcoin at $103,132 per coin, per Bitcoin right now, which is pretty good. It reached a new high recently, approaching $130,000 per coin. But that number is really not terribly helpful to you, me, or the public in understanding the true value of Bitcoin, because the value of the Bitcoin protocol, or I hate to call it a cryptocurrency because it has such unique properties compared to all the others. So much of what's going on with all the other cryptocurrencies is pregnant with lies, deceit, greed. Uh, so Bitcoin much less so. I mean, the human condition the human condition means that sin cuts through every human heart. So is Bitcoin perfect? No. But to finish making my point, if you really want to start wrapping your mind around the reality of Bitcoin, then you need to not think in terms of the Bitcoin or a Bitcoin. You need to think in terms of sats. What are sats? Every Bitcoin is worth 100 million sats. Pretty sure that's correct. So the increment beneath a Bitcoin, or the increment that undergirds or defines a single Bitcoin, is called a sat, a Satoshi, named after the creator of the Bitcoin blockchain protocol, Satoshi Nakamoto. So if you really want to start thinking realistically, regardless of what you decide in the end about Bitcoin, you need to think in terms of Satoshis, right? So about 1,000 Satoshis is worth, at the moment, $1, one American dollar, 1,000 Satoshis. So Bitcoin is designed to be a currency, not an asset. So what does that mean? Well, if you think of a dollar bill, the smallest increment of a dollar bill is a penny. So I just told you that at this point, with Bitcoin being worth over $100,000, it takes close to 1,000 sats, or Satoshis, to equal one American fiat dollar. 1,000. How many pennies does it take to equal one American dollar? It takes 100, right? So it takes 1,000 sats, or Satoshis, to equal the value of one fiat dollar. So what does that mean? Well, when the internet emerged, decades ago, I immediately saw the value in transacting value of micropayments, payments less than a penny. The reason I thought about that was because I felt that at the time, didn't want to pay for subscriptions to the New York Times or whatever news source I was reliant upon to do my job as executive director of the Christian Civic League of Maine. I wanted to offer micropayments for articles that were important to what I was doing. And that's, of course, when Elon Musk and Peter Thiel spun up PayPal, and I thought, wow, maybe, but they never managed to do it. And nobody has really. Nobody's built an effective micropayment strategy for the internet. But the protocol has been there for almost closing in on 2 decades, and that's the Satoshi, the SAT. So the American fiat dollar is worth 100 pennies, smallest increment you can use to exchange value using the dollar fiat currency model of transacting value. But if you want to use Bitcoin, you can transmit a thousandth of a dollar, which I'm doing every day now, multiple times on Primal. And if you're interested in that, I'm going to do an entire show on Primal and Nostr soon. But check it out. Just Google it, primal.net, I think it is, or a Nostr, Primal space Nostr, Nostr, notes and other things, notes and other stuff, NOS, notes and other stuff through relays, Nostr, notes and other stuff through relays. Anyway, that's a deep rabbit hole in and of itself, the whole Nostr protocol and Primal built on top of it. So I had no intention of going there on Bitcoin this morning, but that's free. I donate most of my time to create content online, but I do need a little bit of financial support to pay for subscriptions and hardware and internet connection, and make a tiny contribution to electricity, et cetera, for what I do here. I was blessed by God to receive from an individual enough to get me to the middle of December. So if you'd like to help me get to the end of the year, I would treasure your donation. Very easy to make a donation. You just go to michaelheath.org/donate, michaelheath.org/donate. Everything's straight ahead there. If you would like to help me continue to produce a daily issue summary by email, very frequent content on X, which then gets shared with or published on my Primal account, which, as I say, I'm going to talk about a lot more in future shows, because the free and open internet, which has existed since the beginning and which exists today in a more empowered state than ever before, is actually being created. You don't know about it because nobody there isn't a lot of news about it in the mainstream media, because the world has never seen a more controlled media landscape than what the United States of America has been producing since World War II. Basically one big psychological operation aimed at social engineering, and it's been going on at the deepest psychological level ever pursued by humanity. And America is the worst, not the old Soviet Union. We thought it was Pravda in the old Soviet Union that was the worst, but it wasn't. It was us. It was the United States of America and our so-called free and open media, which everybody knows now is a lie. There's nothing free and open about social media platforms. There's nothing free and open about mainstream media sources. It's all controlled by oligarchs, by billionaires fast becoming trillionaires if you count wealth in dollar bills. Actually, that's all going to collapse and crash and go away, because it can't be sustained forever. It can't, every single fiat currency goes to zero. Every single one in human history has gone to zero in value. It's just a matter of time. And we're going to be no different. So if you care about your grandchildren, if you care about the future, you're going to think about money. but you're not going to think about it in terms of you're not going to think about it like it's a casino. You're not going to think about anything monetary or anything economic as if you're going to get rich quick. If you're going to go down that road, good luck. Good luck. So you can comment. Oh, someone commented. I got a viewer. Shane, good morning, sir. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you got a hot cup of coffee. I'm doing water this morning. So yesterday's show was a good one if you missed it, and if you care about Maine politics, because we talked about the gubernatorial race, and specifically Bobby Charles, who is one of the front runners. It's way early to call out front runners, but he's one of the most visible hopefuls on the Republican side. Crowded primary, about 8 of them in there at this point. And so it's interesting, entertaining, worth following. So yesterday's show is a little more about Maine politics. So as I was preparing for today's MSH Live, I came across this clip of George Galloway and Judge Andrew Napolitano. Us boomers know Napolitano through Fox News, going way back. Galloway is a Brit, and I think he's a socialist, but not real sure of that. But he's a brilliant broadcaster. His narrative is compelling and entertaining and interesting. He calls his talk show the mother of all talk shows, and this is a clip from yesterday with Judge Andrew Napolitano, and they're talking about. I want to set it up a little bit here. Everybody's panicking online. Everybody that's willing to talk to me, and that's very few people, because I'm willing to call out the woke crowd by using terms like faggots and maggots, and even people on my side become extremely uncomfortable with those good old-fashioned English words to describe what's going on. And so because of my narrative, I've kind of isolated myself, which is fine. So Judge Napolitano was Fox News forever. Now he's a YouTube channel creator. I think his audience is approaching 1 million subscribers. Not that I believe those numbers on YouTube. Not that I believe pretty much any of the numbers and metrics and data points that get fed back to us by the algorithms and by American big tech. But there's a lot of evidence to suggest he's got a sizable audience, and he's having an influence in making a difference. But he makes a point here about Mamdani, the new mayor of New York. And I was driving toward a point that jumped out of my head, my boomer head, about Mamdani being a Muslim. And right of center, that's the only thing you hear now, is that he's a Muslim. And that makes him not just bad or compromised or weak as a political figure or as a mayor, but downright dangerous and evil because he's a Muslim. And you don't get that impression from the beginning of this interview. We're going to start a little bit into it. They're not approaching it in that knee-jerk evangelical Zionist way, or from that starting point, that perspective, where there's all kinds of fear, uncertainty, and doubt about Mamdani simply because he's a Muslim. And the judge and George Galloway make make an important point here that I want to show you. So
I mean, we do have points of agreement.
let's see what happened. The volume is not working. See, why is it not working? Unmute screen audio. Oh, I think it might be this. Remove from. Let's try it now. Appreciate your patience, doing all this stuff alone.
With them, we do have points of disagreement.
So let's try doing this.
Agreement.
Let's remove it. Let's delete it. Let's add it. You're so good being patient like this. But it's early in the morning. You're full of patience. Sure. You don't need to start rushing yet. You're not at work. Okay.
I mean, we do have points of agreement with them. We do have points of disagreement with them. But as I put it earlier in my monologue.
Oh, that's so irritating. Let me check this. Edit now. See, remove. Stop screen. And try again. Share tab audio.
It's not that I'm.
Ain't gonna work. Probably need to restart my browser is my guess, which I'm not going to do. So we're going to move on. Let me see if I can remember the point that they made. George observed that it was fascinating for him to watch from the other side of the pond, from England, the amount of money that was spent. He mentioned, I think, 100 million, but certainly way up in the tens of millions, or anyway, in the millions of dollars was spent to try to defeat this guy, Mamdani. And it came from, Republican Zionist type billionaires, and they failed to defeat him. And according to Judge Napolitano, the support for Mamdani came in $50 and $100 increments from young men and younger people, not from old billionaire boomers. And so this is a fact that that all people of goodwill who don't want America to disappear as a nation need to be thinking about as we move into the midterm election year of 2026. The only thing that MAGA is holding on to increasingly is old boomers like me, who have been influenced throughout their whole lifetime by the Holocaust narrative, by the World War II narrative, by the propaganda that has been pumped into our psychology, our minds, our thinking through movies, World War II movies, cowboy movies, and the controlled education of the public schools that's been designed basically to make us into slaves for the oligarchy in America and in the West. And the Mamdani result proves that the younger men and women in New York have moved on from all of that. So that's one of the points I made about the Bobby Charles campaign yesterday. Is I told him to drop the reference to World War II. I told him to drop the reference to Reagan, and to work hard on putting a finer point on his connection to the Bushes, because he lays claim all the time to the fact that he headed an immense department at the national level under Bush, lots of employees and an immense budget, and he's attempting to use that as a resume builder to cause Mainers to think that he has the experience necessary to manage a state government. He's going to have to find a more precise, a better way to use his connection to Bush, the Bush family, and to the Republican past than he's currently using. It'll work probably with a lot of boomers, but not all boomers, because I'm seeing it all around me. Boomers are waking up. They're asking questions they've never thought before. They're coming to conclusions they would never even have considered before in their life. So it's all the landscape is changing so fast, and this is a reality of the end of empire historically. At the end, when you reach the end of the power, got a bug flying around me here. When you reach the end of the power of the empire, everything accelerates, and it keeps accelerating the closer you get to the final conflict that creates a new world order, so to speak, that creates a different political reality. And we've been very much in that accelerationist mode since COVID was launched. The COVID attack was launched back in 2020. So we're 5 years into this acceleration, but it's just, as each day passes, it accelerates even faster. It becomes more and more it comes faster and faster and faster. Like, for example, Judge Napolitano is making that sort of an observation and speaking without fear, uncertainty, and doubt about Mamdani, this young new Muslim mayor in New York City. So the old paradigm that evangelical Protestants are used to when it comes to politics is gone. Trump is making his most forceful effort to date since he started his political career to hang on to that cohort, to that group. But it's shrinking so fast. It's losing power so fast that the billionaire class, the Jews, Israel is having to throw in all the chips to try to hold on to it, to try to keep it from obliteration, from absolute disintegration. That's how bad it is. Laura Loomer and Mark Levin and that South Carolina faggot senator, I can never remember his name. It's probably a God's grace. They're not going to be able to stop Tucker and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes. There's absolutely no doubt about that. They're trying to. They're working hard. The Zionists are, and Trump, to demonize guys like Tom Massey, and Rand Paul, and Nick Fuentes, and Tucker Carlson, and Candace Owens. It's not going to work. It's only giving them higher numbers and more credibility. More credibility. The more they attack. MAGA is split. I don't see Trump making any moves at this point to try to heal the divide, but he's going to be forced to. He's at the beginning and end of the day, he's a political creature, and I'm sure that his people are telling him that you're going to lose the midterms if you keep this up. And I don't think he'll do that. I don't think he wants to lose the midterms. So they're going to have to get creative and dig deep to find a way through the Epstein mess to fix the to fix their politics. I was going to say their domestic politics, but his foreign policy is a disaster as well. So the whole thing is becoming a disaster, politically speaking. So I'm going to try to share something else here, see if it works. Okay, it did work, which is good. So I got this email yesterday. Hi, Michael Stewart. Hey, this is from Elon Musk. Your post, well, from his robot, right? Your post was detected by our systems and had its visibility limited for violating the X rules. Specifically, we have determined your post violated our rules against hateful conduct. You may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. So I was replying to somebody, I think. Yeah, I think this was a reply, or it might have been a quote tweet. And I wrote, all true, agreeing with whatever the post was. The consciousness has risen, no going back. Faggots are maggots to any civilization. That's why God vaporized the 5 cities of the plain. Maybe you've heard of 2 of them, Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, this idea that if you say something negative about a group, then it's hateful is ridiculous, totally unenforceable and insane. Especially in America, which is supposed to have a First Amendment that works, that functions. Groups are fair. All groups are fair game. It's when you make it personal and you become and you threaten violence against a person. If you're calling out if you're criticizing groups, but even when it comes to a person, we used to practice the idea that if a person decides to enter into public life, then they become fair game for pointed criticism that some would argue is hateful. So even when you talk about limiting it to group, about the distinction between persons and groups, even when it comes to persons, in the United States of America, the jurisprudence going all the way back to the beginning has been if it's a public figure, a political aspirant, a candidate, or a sitting politician who has power in America, then they're fair game for criticism that they might find is hateful. The most pointed and hateful campaign in American history was John Adams versus Thomas Jefferson in 1800. And that campaign, those guys were best friends. And it was super hateful and personal. And so this is an American tradition that we would speak in pointed ways about, especially about our political figures. But look what's happened here. You read my post. I didn't even name anybody. I'm just talking about a group of people who have destroyed civil marriage. It's already done. It's a done deal. The Supreme Court gave it to them, gave them the victory. They've destroyed it. They've already destroyed who? These maggots. This idea that sexual orientation is all important. It's so important that you can wipe out civil marriage in Maine and America. So anyway, at least they didn't cancel my account. I suppose that maybe that's going to come, but they've throttled my reach. I've known that. I mean, Maine and America have been throttling my reach since the beginning. it was a shocker to me to be to not just have my reach throttled, but to be canceled, to have the professional work of the Christian Civic League of Maine going back about 6 years, 6, 7 years, publishing and creating the Christian Civic League of Maine record in digital form. The publication of the record goes all the way back to September of 1900 in print form. But under my leadership, we went to exclusive. We did do some print versions of it for a while, but the cost was prohibitive. So we went to digital, and we produced a lot of really great content. We exposed, for example, Governor John Baldacci in a smiling picture with the communist Fidel Castro. That went global before virality was a great big deal. And boy, talking about pissing off the main political class. And it was the record that did that. They, the evangelical Zionists ousted me. And then they proceeded very quickly to erase all of that work, all of that journalistic work. They erased it. They just turned it off. One of the dangers of digital work is that can happen. It can just, you just push of a button, it's gone. So, and that happened to me in 2009. So I've been living with being canceled by religion my entire adult life, really. But that's, of course I have. What does Christianity teach us? It teaches us that one sure marker, one sure way to, I gotta learn to make myself bigger and stop leaving the written stuff up for so long. Be patient with me. I'm an old guy learning to do everything here, being a producer. So, yeah. Sainthood in Christianity is often connected to martyrdom, physical martyrdom, being killed. Not killing, using a weapon in a bloody way, but being killed. And not necessarily by enemies of Christianity. Oftentimes, a man or woman becomes a saint, recognized by the church, because they've spoken truth to the powers within the church. For example, St. Francis of Assisi. Unlike Martin Luther, St. Francis of Assisi went to Rome, and he lived his convictions about the poor and how important it was for Rome to take the church's duty to the poor seriously, that he lived under tremendous conflict, or lived in the midst of tremendous conflict within the church, but he never left the church. And of course, today, we got the prayer of St. Francis that all the reforming alcoholics pray all the time. Serenity prayer, I guess they call it. So, am I shocked or surprised? No, I'm not. But when I was, I guess, when I was leading the Christian Civic League as an evangelical Protestant, I was shocked and surprised, because I kind of felt like, hey, look, I'm doing the right thing here. I'm doing the good thing. I'm making sacrifices. I'm being hated by everybody for being the spokesman for the board of directors of this institution. And then, of course, the institution erases me and makes me into public enemy number one for the last, 15 years. After spending 20 years there and doing their bidding. I mean, I didn't act alone. I act in concord, in harmony, on behalf of, I was the spokesman for an institution, for the board of directors of the Christian Civic League of Maine for 20 years. And we won. We argued the point about sexual orientation. We won 2 major battles. fighting this whole woke thing, which is now a political football for the Republicans and the Democrats. It's just they just pass it back and forth. You know, we've all got permission now. You know, Heidi Sampson has given us permission now in Maine to fight over trannies. You know, and so we've got a new petition, the next referendum being spun up on the precise fight about protecting girls in the locker rooms. You know, it used to be the bathroom fight, right? They had us talking about bathrooms forever. Now it's we're getting more precise. We're going to talk about the locker rooms in our public schools, and specifically the girls having to undress in front of the guys who are transitioning. So that's this week. We have to be able to talk about this in very precise English words and make sure we don't offend, right? We can't possibly offend. That Michael Heath, right? That Michael Heath, I've heard this from close associates. That Michael Heath, he doesn't have any, we don't listen to him. He's an old guy for one thing, but he's a Christian. You know, he's one of those Christians. He's one of them, one of those Christians. What do they mean by that? Well, I'm a Christian that says there's such a thing as faggots, such a thing as them acting like maggots, consuming what's left of a civilization, right? What do maggots do in a corpse? They turn it into dirt. They turn their job is to turn the corpse of the body, to turn the corpse into dirt by consuming it. Maybe you're noticing that's happening right now, and that both sides are party to consuming the corpse of Maine and leaving only dirt in its wake. You know, maybe open your eyes when you're driving along the streets at how ugly everything's becoming, filling our pastures with solar panels and our beautiful ridge lines with towering windmills. And now we're getting ready to fill the Gulf of Maine with windmills that produce almost no power, no electricity. At a time when electricity is becoming the premium, most valuable thing that a civilization can create in a cheap, efficient, and stable way. Look at what we're doing here in Maine. We're retarded, totally, willfully retarded, so that we can, save the environment. Save the environment by sticking these towers on top of our ridge lines and into our beautiful Gulf of Maine and filling our pastures full of these dystopic solar panel farms. Are you kidding me? Come on. This so far from being rocket science now. And the results from yesterday's election indicate that most of Maine people are down with it. They're fine. They want to be retarded. They think they're saving the planet from CO2 or something. Anyway, it's really, really bad out there, but it's getting better, especially for the young men and women who are building the future, especially for them. It's getting better. And if you are a young man or a young woman in your 20s, get married. Stop goofing around. Get married. And have children. I don't care if you think you can afford it or not. It doesn't matter. You need to get married and have children. Let me check my comments here to see if I have any questions. Nope, nothing. So this will be archived. You can share it with friends and family if you want to at michaelheath.tv. And since I can't get audio to work, and this videos that I had spun up for the show are probably not going to work. I'm going to bring up my X feed. You can go and follow me on X. I post there often. On a future show, I'm going to talk about Primal, which I've connected my X account to, and which is the future of social media, most likely. So here's my X account, and let's see what is going on today on X. Well, there I am. So apparently the connection between StreamYard and X is working. So I'm streaming over there. I thought this was cute, from one of my favorite creators on YouTube, Truth Stream Media. And she writes, "F this, time for a live stream," and then pictures of live stream. That's good. And then another favorite on X, Dr. Simon Godek. What's one truth that would collapse the system? I'll go first. Child trafficking is protected at the highest levels, and exposing it gets you silenced or dead. Not just exposing the pedos, I write, and slave makers, just using honest English words to describe what the woke demons are doing gets you silenced or dead. Well, ain't that the truth, huh? Yeah, if you use good old-fashioned English words to address social issues, social, moral, cultural issues, then you just get yourself called one of those Christians. Yeah, he's one of those Christians. So here's Paul Turn LePage this morning writing, bragging about some volunteers. And I wrote, my prediction is that Matt Dunlap, latest news is that Golden has pulled out, I guess. Jared Golden is finishing up, apparently. I don't know any of the details. But Dunlap is going to step in, the former Secretary of State. I know Matt. We're not friends, but we're certainly friendly acquaintances from way back. So anyway, my prediction is that, and he's a leftist Democrat, but he's got a lot of common sense in my experience. And I'm making a prediction here that he's going to put the final nail in this old man's political coffin, the old man being Paul Turn LePage. Mark my words, Maine is going to turn LePage, turn the page. So I know a lot of my friends and supporters are going to hate me for that one, but oh well. Libertarianism is such a grift. So this is, let's see if the volume works on this.
Decade. I mean, here's the pen that signed Maine.
I think it's my browser, probably would need to restart the computer or browser or something. But anyway, so we're not going to be able to listen to Eric Brakey here. Libertarianism is such a grift. Might talk about this during my live stream this morning. I was on the ground when this guy was sent to New England. Probably time to tell more of that story. We'll see. So yeah, this is Eric Brakey, and he's declaring that Maine has fallen and that we all need to move to New Hampshire, where he's moved to, after coming to Maine and making himself into a hero by back in 2012. He came, and he was sent here with my support from, I was at the time the executive director of the Ron Paul for President primary campaign in Iowa, which was the first in the nation presidential primary within the GOP, which we lost. But as I was there in the fall, I was approached by my boss, who asked me what I thought about sending this young man, this young hardworking man who'd gotten into some kind of trouble over drugs or alcohol with law enforcement, what I thought about sending him to Maine. And I said, well, he's a hard worker. Okay. And so I said, okay. Yeah, or not that I had a veto or anything. I didn't have any. He was just seeking my advice. I didn't know Eric at the time, never met him, but I was asked, and that's what I said, and he came to me. as a young man, and he worked very hard. And the Ron Paul campaign that year took over the GOP, became a national issue at the convention, where half the delegates, I think, were unseated. Half of the Ron Paul delegates were not seated or whatever. They weren't allowed to vote at the convention, the Republican National Convention. So, and so that was how Eric got started. And then he ended up getting into the legislature, maybe as a senator, and he made a name for himself there by supporting constitutional carry of guns. So he worked with Paul LePage to get rid of the permitting, I think it was, with respect to concealed carry of guns in Maine. And so that endeared him to the hunters and the gun folks in Maine. And then he went from there to be a really, really good libertarian and lead the charge for pot, for the legalization of pot in Maine. And so over time, I think he was pretty stable, held on to his political power in the legislature, but I don't know if I've ever actually, I don't think I've ever talked to him, but I think we might have met along the way, but I've never talked to him. And now he's gone from Maine and he's in New Hampshire. He's heading up some free state project, and he's telling us here in Maine that we've lost the plot and that it's all over for us, which of course he's wrong about. And so that's my Eric Brakey story. Libertarianism is over. It's done. It's supremely. There's no morality to it to speak of. It's all about the government. It's all about the government securing freedom, right, and liberty, and the kind of liberty that it's securing for us is of a sexual and a drug nature. The young libertarians, especially, they related to Ron like an old grandfather in his dotage, and so they put up with his pro-life his pro-life ideas. And I think that I think my computer is all screwed up. Am I still recording? I am, but my headset just died, so don't know what that means. So we'll get all this stuff fixed before tomorrow, but appreciate you watching. As I shared, whoops, what's going on here? Okay. Hey, God is good. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap this today's show a little early with the praying the Lord's Prayer. So, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So, thanks so much for watching and passing it along and liking, sharing, and helping out as you can. God be with you today.